Hello, welcome to the newest edition of the Financial Advantage podcast. My name is Dennis Wells. We're powered by the Wells Funding Group, and I'm delighted to be joined by Meighan Wise here today. She is the leader of the portfolio team, powered by Keller Williams in Indy. Portfolio. Well, first of all, welcome to the podcast. We're glad to
Well,
have you here.
hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. So portfolio, a lot of investment property that you're involved with.
Yeah, so we're a residential real estate brokerage team that operates out of Indianapolis. We do love our like luxury residential sales and making sure all of our sellers and our buyers have like an amazing experience because that journey to purchasing real estate is very tough. And
Yeah.
then if you take that journey and apply it to purchasing for investments, it's even harder because notoriously the investment world, right, is a little bit shadier. It's a little bit harder to understand. It doesn't work like residential. And so what we've done is kind of create a bridge from the residential world into that investment world because Indianapolis, where we live, where we work, is one of the best places to invest because of affordability and the availability to get into homes. So we are all investors ourselves or to be investors. So we have a guy in our team who is the top 10 realtor under Bigger Pockets. So if you want to know anything about investing, the best podcast list do the Bigger Pockets. So one of the Bigger Pockets guys is on our team. He knows he's a wealth of knowledge. He owns about 10 doors. Together, I have about 30 doors between multifamily, single family. We have people doing a couple of flips a quarter. So on top of also doing residential. So we just love kind of sharing the world that we're in because we believe in generational wealth and doing it
hmm
in our own backyard in Indianapolis is our passion.
No, absolutely. And that's why I'm so big on, real estate home ownership, especially. Um, because yes, I help people get mortgages, but I don't see myself as someone who's selling debt.
Yeah.
I'm, helping people with a tool to, because I don't particularly like debt, but I do
Yeah.
love real estate and I do love the opportunity to, using a mortgage as a tool
Yes.
to, get the financial benefit of the whole property when you're only putting down a part of that money.
Yeah, and I think it's people are now hating on mortgages and home ownership, right? Some
hmm
online haters, but it's a great place to start to understand, to build equity and not be paying somebody else's mortgage. You're going to be paying your own.
Right.
And then understanding what to do with that equity. And I think that's where you and I come in as residential experts and mortgage experts is saying, well, how can I make this equity work for me instead of just sitting in the home for 15, 20 years and then waiting for my equity to accrue and then pull it out when I sell. So that's where I think you and I come in is what can we do in that 10 to 15 years of home ownership of taking the equity and making it grow elsewhere in real estate.
hmm
Right. And that's a very popular method called Burr method. I'm sure that you know about and we know about, but
Yes.
using the equity inside a home you already own to purchase and rehab or refinance another property that can also make you money.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one of the, there's several disadvantages of, simply sitting on your equity. One of them being, capital gains. I mean, one of the
Yeah.
great things about, residential real estate is that there is an exclusion for capital gains, for single people, and then, double that for married people filing
Yes.
jointly. But if you're simply sitting in a house and you're letting that wealth accumulate, you
Mhm.
could unwittingly, you know, be subject to capital gains taxes when you could have taken that profit, invested it into another house,
Mhm.
or several houses,
Yeah.
and not only diversified that, but lowered your tax liability. That sometimes people don't think about that.
Yeah, and I think no one, I think it sounds scary and it doesn't, if unless you have someone that's done it before, it's hard to
hmm
trust. You can read all the books and listen to all these podcasts, but unless you have someone actually saying, I did it and you can do it, because I think it's all about your mindset. And
Sure.
so if you have someone like that you trust or know that's in your sphere going, I did it and this is how I did it, it makes that first step less scary to say, I'm going to use my equity instead of getting capital gains. I'm going to take my equity and put it in a different house, or I'm going to use a 1031 exchange. What is that?
hmm
Like Google and ChatGPT can tell you all about it, but I like human connection and explaining it and a friend doing it. And this is what our team and our brokerage believes in is like, if we can do it, then we can talk about it. And then that can give impact to your clients or to our clients.
Yeah, yeah, and that 1031 exchange is tremendous, because that can,
Yeah.
there's no telling how much money that could save you over the course of your life if,
Hmm.
if it's utilized, properly.
Correctly.
Now, obviously, we're not accountants, so we're not giving tax advice,
Nope.
but talk with your CPA and they'll tell you that we're right.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, and I did my very first 1031 exchange a couple of years ago. Even as an expert realtor and top ranked in my state of Indiana, I still was like, wait, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? This is kind of confusing. And I was in the world. So I can't even imagine if you're not in the world, like what does all that mean? So I think educating yourself, things like this, and then coffee with people who've done it, finding a realtor or mortgage broker like us who understand or can connect you to people that can explain it because it's really not that hard. It just sounds a little scary because it's not commonly talked about how to use your equity and your money in your house to make more money.
Exactly, exactly. And there is a reason why homeowners have like a 400 time net worth than renters. Even back,
Yeah.
back in the day, richest man in Babylon, one of those keys, is own your own house,
Yeah.
and,
It's
get
American
insurance.
dream.
Own
I
your,
mean, this
yeah.
is American dream. You can do it. And it's not that difficult if you can get 3% down and save your money. I know lenders like you, lenders that I work with here in Indianapolis will handhold you and make sure your credit is where it needs to be, whether it give
Yeah.
you homework for 6 months or 12 months. But getting that first home, whether you're 50 years old or you're 25, is such a huge goal. And you have no idea what you can do once you start building equity if you purchase correctly. And that's
Hmm.
where you cannot hire an inexperienced realtor. You can't hire the Zillow realtor. You have to find someone that really cares about your bottom dollar and about the financial investment.
Yes, yeah. And I always, when I'm talking with clients, I talk about, investing in a great realtor partner
Yeah.
because, it's like anything else. You get what you pay for. No one's going to say, "Hey, my needs to have heart surgery. Who's the cheapest heart surgeon that you know?" I mean, you're
Right.
going to be like, "Hey, who's the guy that's been doing this for a long time and is really, really good?" And it's the same thing. It's like, and it's again that mindset, right? People
Yeah.
think, well, how much am I have to pay? It's like,
Yeah.
well, what if, you switch it a little bit and say, if I invest, say round number 3% in an experienced buyer's agent, how much money is that going to save me, or how much money,
Oh.
additional money, is that going to make me?
Mhm.
Because, an experienced agent, you know, does this all the time.
Connections,
Yeah.
networking. Oh yeah, the amount of off-market deals that I can get to my clients because of my sphere, my networking, and like what's going on the real world of the real estate and what we're hearing. Like these are all really important, like key notifications of what our economy is doing now in real estate, what's happening next year, if they're tapped into a national level. Like those are the people that you want to talk to about your real estate needs. If you're just like, I want to help my friend out and use your friend, that's fine, but you need to make sure that friend is educated and experienced. And I love it because I know I save my clients either I save them money, time, hassle, effort, something. You
Yeah.
will save all of it. And sometimes it's not tangible. Sometimes I'm able to provide a client an off-market property, right? Or a lender that will take their call at 10 o'clock at night, like you
Yep.
would, so they can get the offer in the next day because certain houses have sense of urgency. And if your realtor doesn't pick up the phone because they go to bed at 10 o'clock and they saw a house list at 10, it's sold by 10 a.m. the next morning before
Right.
you even talk to your realtor. There's so many scenarios here. And I love speaking up for our industry of like what we do, even though there's a lot of people who don't do it right. The ones that do are worth their weight in gold and for mortgages as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and it's like, I mean, if I'm going to go to a conference or something, I'm going to spend a little bit more and stay at the hotel where the conference is
Yes.
because it's just more
Oh,
convenient. They're going to treat you a little bit better.
yes.
It's like if all you're looking for is a place to sleep that's not your car, well, really anything will do. But if you're looking for something that is,
Yeah.
convenient, that is going to, provide value, you're probably going to pay a little bit more for it. But,
Yeah.
the investment is going to be worth it because, what if, because you stayed there, you were able to, get more rest, be on time, and that
Amen.
one idea that, that could totally transform your life, you heard. Whereas if you were trying to cut corners, maybe you missed something.
I love that. I've never heard of that analogy. And I've spoke at conferences. I attend them all as much as I can around my family life, right? But I think that's such a good point because you do try to take the shortcut to save money on these kind of things. But when you go, there's some magic in that special sauce of in between the
Hmm.
conferences and the happy hour and the restaurant and like the after hours. Like I've done so many deals where I've actually opened up relationships with people for life because I've stayed at the
Yep.
hotel when you're having the culture of the actual conference experience. That's a great analogy, but I think you can apply that obviously to anything. And if you're trying to save a quick buck, probably buying real estate isn't the place to save money,
Right.
right? Maybe save it on your coffee or your Costco or your Target shopping. Be thorough with who you interview for your real estate needs and for your mortgage broker, like you.
Yep.
There's mortgage brokers that won't answer the call after 5 p.m. And then
Hmm.
there's ones that will send videos to the listing realtor. Like I get tons of videos of mortgage brokers calling, texting, or videoing me saying, "My buyer's great. Choose my buyer. These are the reasons why they're so great." I
Yep.
love that because it's a personal connection. And if I have four people offering on one house, I'm going to take the one where the lender cares enough to reach out and tell
Hmm.
me all about how great and qualified the buyer is.
Yeah. 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 100%. 100%. I think a lot of these things really have, you know, there's a lot of confusion, out there.
Yes.
Obviously people are like, "Oh, I can do this myself now." It's like, well,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
I could fix my own car too, but if I do, it's going to cost me probably four times as much and take me like 10 times as long, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm not really good at that. Whereas
Right.
I could take it to the shop, they do that all the time. I'll have it back in a day, and it's a,
What if they have?
yeah, and so yeah, all of that, and so I think really it's about, it's helping the client, get people that are committed to being better.
Yeah.
And, like one of our things is, we run our people through underwriting before they go out make
I
offers.
love that.
So there's no mortgage contingency. So we're telling them, hey, you can cross your fingers and hope for the best. You can do minimal effort and hope that nobody else is interested in the house that you want when you make an offer, which, we know that, you know, other people are more likely to be interested in a house when you're interested in it.
Oh,
Um,
always. Yes.
or we can invest a little bit of time and energy, remove that mortgage contingency and have you compete like you're a cash offer, only probably better because you're actually getting advice. The 30 to 34% of people that are paying cash are probably paying way more in taxes than what they need to pay to get that money. They're missing out on some great opportunities in the market, by just paying cash for a house. And
Mm-hmm.
like you're talking about, they're tying up all of that equity
Yes.
in a house that, yeah, it's going to go up 3 to 5, maybe 6% in a good
Maybe.
year. But,
Maybe.
S&P what averages 10% since inception or
Yeah.
something like
That
that.
makes, I mean, that's not rocket science right there.
Right. Yeah.
But I understand the mentality, especially in the older generation of,
Yep.
not wanting to have the mortgage, just having that weight off your shoulders. But I'm excited that like the next generation seems to be more self-aware. And obviously thanks to social media and all these podcasts and bloggings and posts of that, you can put your money into a house and then you can use that money to buy more income producing properties or, college or whatever it may be on your goal list. Maybe income property isn't, it's not for everyone, but it's a great way to build generational wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, you want to get with quality people who know what they're doing so that, you avoid some of the horror stories. I mean, because the thing of it is like, it is real estate. So,
Yes.
you know, there are pitfalls to avoid, you know, but an experienced guide is going to
Yeah.
help you avoid those things, be able to give you some good advice, and like you're saying, be able to create a passive income
Yeah.
where um, you can pass that on to your family, and they're always going to have income coming in. And you know,
Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're not paying for the journey is always a little bumpy, but you're gonna get handheld with somebody like someone on my group. But at the end of the day, like if you are getting handheld during that process and there is that oh shit moment, which we all have, maybe, 50% of the files, for 30% of the files. I like to say 10% of the files, right? But you're gonna have that oh shit moment, and that's what you're paying me for. Is
right.
so bullshit moment on a Sunday I had a couple weeks ago where I'm picking up the phone, lost a buyer, called five different buyer's agents within an hour, got a new offer higher than the offer I just lost, all within an hour and a half before I called my client. So I was able to problem solution and then present her with a better offer and more money. Like that's what she's paying for on
Yep.
top of all the other things that we have to offer, but is the really high level troubleshooting when there's a problem. Because sometimes there's problems because there's so many stakeholders in a
Yeah.
transaction, right? The lender
Yeah.
can go be wrong, the mover can be wrong, the buyer's house doesn't sell, so they can't buy yours. There's so many things that are out of your control. So working with someone who's experienced, it's so when those, if it's not smooth, you're definitely taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And and that comes from simply the experience of the number of opportunities that
Yes,
you've had and your team has had. It's like, it's not, unheard of that something happens with a buyer, And so
100, yeah.
because you're, because of your experience, you're like, oh, not panic. I'm going to do
Yeah,
this. And like you said, you ended up with a solution that, hey,
yeah,
bad news is the sellers dropped out. Good news is I got you new buyers and they're paying more
exactly.
money.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't always work like that, but that's what you're paying me for is the emotional stability of oh shoot moment and then
Hmm.
not worrying about the oh shoot and just fixing it as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah. And having that confidence too, where,
Yeah.
you can go to sleep or you can go to town on the weekend knowing
Yeah.
that if something happens, I have a professional that's going to take care of that for me.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, very good. So, obviously very, very big on real estate. You said you have like 40 people on your team.
Yeah, we are. I started brokerage at Keller Williams, Indy Metro North, and we have an office located in Carmel, Indiana, and another office in Indianapolis Fishers area. And so we love what we do. We can help anybody buy or sell all over the state. Obviously, our focus is Metro Indianapolis, all around the city. We focus on investing in the city, Class A, Class B, and Class C, and we teach on that. So that's really cool. Is that our realtors who are with us, they have an extra day a month where all we do is talk about investing, how to invest, how the financing works with investing, how the numbers work, finding the deals, sourcing the deals, giving them to ourselves or to our clients. So we're not just putting signs in the ground and hoping for the best over here. So those kind of days are long gone, and the bigger brokerages are struggling. The big box national franchises, I
Hmm.
feel, are struggling because the human connection is where the magic always happens,
Yep.
especially in real estate. And if you are working behind a screen, it's really hard to connect on when there's a problem or on a good deal, you have to move fast and you don't have boots on the ground, you don't have human connection here. It's going to be hard for a New York client, which we represent New York, California, out of the country, tons of international clients as well. You have to be able to move fast
Yep.
when there's deals happening. And if you don't have anybody here locally to trust, it's really scary, right? So we're the people you trust to go into the city and get you videos and tell you, oh, I just sent a client with my buyer specialist to 49th for a potential flip. It was like listed for 190. We could probably put about maybe 100, maybe 125 in it, maybe sell at the 400 mark. We decided against it. We walked through it, we did a video, and then I actually sent someone who was more savvy than myself about that particular block in the neighborhood. And they went by and said all the reasons why we shouldn't do it. So we are telling our clients, nope, this is not for you.
Right.
And we're because we want them to have such a good experience. Because just like residential real estate or investment real estate, there's going to be problems.
Yep.
There's just a little bit more in the investment world. So we're here to make sure we protect our clients before they make that big first step.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great working with someone who knows enough and is, has enough integrity to say this is not a good deal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
it's not about, oh, I want to help you buy something or I need to, to make my house payment or whatever it is. It's like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
we're
No.
here to, you know, to help you be successful. And like, we're
Yeah,
not successful if you're not successful.
exactly.
So,
And
you know,
we don't work on that mindset. There are most realtors out there, unfortunately, aren't taught how to run their book of business like an actual business. They don't run
mhm,
themselves as entrepreneurs. They run themselves as employees, and so they don't
mhm,
really understand the what it takes to be super successful in the business. And so it maybe they only have done 3 or 4 sales a year. So like we talked about that oh shit moment, they really can't step up because they don't know what to do, and they get kind of a analysis paralysis. They don't know who to call, they don't know what to do, portfolio, because statistically, realtors typically have, there's a 90% of realtors do 4 transactions or less. Like that's a scary number. So
Hmm.
just make sure when you're talking to someone about the biggest financial decision, you're not talking to someone who has only had 10 deals total or 10 homes, 10 relationships, 10 opportunities total under their belt, because you're gonna need hand holding. I don't care how many houses you buy, you need that hand holding because it's
Yeah,
an emotional purchase. So
right.
that's the beauty in real estate, is that it's a business transaction, but there are emotions. So those who say they're not, they're going to be blinded by their own emotions, and then they're going to maybe make poor decisions. So we're here to be
Right.
like, if I'm not going to buy that, you probably shouldn't buy it. But we're very vocal on like, if that works for you, great. But here are the numbers, and we don't really love this deal. And we're willing to do that on residential homes and investment homes. We give our
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's what you are, paying a professional realtor
Yeah.
for is, to say, hey, you know, I mean, because I talk to people pretty regularly, like, oh, well, you know, let me get a foreclosure. It's like, well, first of all, there aren't that many foreclosures out there. Second of all, there's professional investors that are going after those
Yes.
that know, hey, because they do this all the time,
With
they're like
cash. With,
with
yeah,
cash
with a half
and
a million in the bank cash ready. So
yeah, yeah, and they know like, hey, it's probably going to cost me X to fix this up, and if I want to get whatever my rate of return is on that, then and the cost to acquire and sell and all those things, I can pay up to this point and nothing more, and then
yeah,
they're going
there's
to
a
pay up to
reason
that
why
point, and
if it
that yeah,
doesn't sell to the big professional investor guys, there's a reason.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
banks want to sell to them, they already have mutual relationships. Those things are already happening. So it's
yeah.
extremely difficult for the everyday person to go buy a foreclosure. That's going to be a rare thing. But you hear about it on HGTV, so you think that's what I want to do.
Right, right. And it's like, I mean, and I did buy a foreclosure back in the day when they were more plentiful than what they are now. And we got a great deal on it, but we did have to put quite a bit of money into it as well. I mean, we lived
Yeah.
there and so we did fine. But, you know, even then I wouldn't be like, oh, let me go buy 5
Never,
foreclosures
yeah, it's
and
never
flip them.
easy.
It's like, no, that was just not not what I
And
was looking to
it's
do.
not for everybody. There's got to be a lot of capital, and there's professional investors that do that, and we have connections and we know those people. So sometimes we can get deals from them too. So, it's
Yeah.
all about connections and relationships in this industry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and sometimes if you know what somebody is wanting, you say, well, hey, instead of you buying this foreclosure and fixing it up and living in it, what if we, with one of our investors, say, hey, these are some things that we're looking at. Do you have anything coming up that you're
Mhm.
going to be done? And
Yeah.
then, here's someone that does this for a living. So you
Yeah.
can, and they've got a reputation. So, in that situation, it's probably a better buy than even buying a house from some other individual that, you know, maybe they just don't know, but
Yep.
there's
Close.
things that need to be done with the house that they just don't really know about, whereas this person's gone through everything
Mhm.
and, has taken something that was, not really functional and made it, you know, almost brand new.
Yeah. There's a beauty in there and knowing who's doing what and who does it at a high level in the inner workings of residential and investment real estate. So wherever you're located, find the people who are willing to talk and willing to help and who have some good numbers under the belt. There's a reason if they do a lot, there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
So find those people and talk to them. And if you don't know them, call me. I'll tell you who it is in your city. I have friends all over that I can trust that I call.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think is the greatest challenge in real estate today?
Oh gosh, that's great. I in my world, I'm always thinking in the coaching and training world, and so there you can answer that depending on your filter. And I'm going to answer it on the filter of training and coaching realtors to work at an extremely high level, like of the professionals that they are, and make sure that their clients are 100% taken care of. And so that's my passion and my goals. And so when that happens, these realtors then are very intentional about understanding finances, understanding investments, and going out in the world and helping their clients do right by them, make the right investment. There
Mhm.
are a lot of realtors, and this is my pet peeve and why I created Portfolio. Many realtors who don't know how to educate themselves aren't getting educated Their managing brokers are doing the trainings. Their managing brokers have never sold, certain numbers. They never had certain experiences. So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind sometimes in these
Hmm.
residential real estate worlds. And so from my perspective as a coach and trainer is I want to make sure I develop and train high level professionals. And
Hmm.
so they are going to stand out amongst the rest. What's difficult in the everyday world of real estate is that it's always changing, and it's changing since the NAR settlement that went into effect in July of 2024, which wasn't that scary. And I hated that we wasted 7 months talking about it because the
Right.
implementation of how we change how we pay and how we talk about paying buyers, realtors, it wasn't that difficult. It wasn't rocket science. We prepared so much. We were so ready. Simply put, the sellers used to have to pay at least a minimum of $1 into the buyer's realtor, and now that can be changed to zero. So when buyers offer on sellers' homes, they have their realtor has to sign a contract with them now, a buyer's contract with the realtor, just like the sellers have to sign a contract with the sellers. So now the buyer's contract states, I'm going to work for you for X price, and if I can't get the seller to pay for X price, you'll make up the difference, or we'll talk about it, we'll negotiate when it comes. So now the buyer's realtor has to be worth their weight, because now
Yeah.
they have to negotiate for themselves, for their buyer, and the money on how much they're getting paid for that effort is now negotiable. And I love that. We like this. And so we
Hmm.
love the new laws. But what's happening is because there's a lack of training all over the board in every real estate brokerage, nationally, all the brokerages are understanding how to really get this to the everyday people. And now because of COVID, everything's gone cloud-based. So
Yep.
now you have new laws, new rules. You have an entire generation of realtors over 40 who don't really understand it. There's no one there to teach it, and they have to log onto a Zoom and try to listen in and pay attention. And that's not really the best learning for most people, right? Hands-on is the
Hmm.
best way. And so unfortunately, we are now having some mass chaos that's kind of seemed to be settled down. But that's my biggest issue in what's going on in real estate is the push and pull of how technology is changing education and trading. But for the everyday person listening to here, your biggest issue is what's the rate? When can I change my rate? If you find that perfect house, you buy it and you figure out
Yep.
the rate as it comes. I left a 3% for a 5.5%. You do these things for the right house, and you have to
Yep.
have your trusted advisor to tell you that. But for the everyday person, what I'm going to see as a buyers in the spring is low inventory, going to be hard to find that right house and not have other offers. If that's what we're feeling in our Indianapolis market. So the
Yep.
everyday person, if you're looking to buy, you're gonna maybe have some competition in the spring. And the
Yeah.
everyday realtor, if you feel like you're struggling, it's okay, you are. It's because tools and times of technology, at least in Indiana, has not caught up in teaching the progressive broker on how to do this job.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We actually revamped our entire discovery call with the
Oh,
clients to
good.
add in, you know, hey, how are you familiar with how a buyer's agent gets paid? Because
Yeah,
they've always
good.
gotten paid. It's just been
Yeah.
a little less transparent. And so, but what's been helpful is, you know, you know, generally nobody is general, but in general, it's like the different buckets that people fall into the usually there's different customs around all of that. So like, hey, if you're a
Right.
first time home buyer and you're buying a house for $300,000, your buyer's agent compensation is roughly going to be about $9,000. The good news is you don't have to pay that today. The better news is, a lot of people selling those first time home buyer houses, you know, weren't, that long ago weren't, were first time home buyers as well. And so they remember that. They remember
Yes.
not having any money. And so a
Yeah.
lot of times they're willing to compensate your broker for that.
Yes.
And so that, you're getting the advice. But now if you're a move up buyer,
Mhm.
that's one of the things that, we can use to our advantage. So, if there's no mortgage contingency, so you're getting in a tight market situation, very competitive, there's no mortgage contingency, so you can compete like cash. Now, maybe you're doing an appraisal gap where,
Mhm.
you're offering more than the list price and you're going to cover if the appraisal is short up to a certain amount because you're selling your house. So you've got some cash. We've already kind of, worked through a good financial plan and then taking that buyer's agent compensation and saying, well, not only will we do an appraisal gap, but we might pay some or all of our buyer's agent. So someone coming in with cash that doesn't get advice, all of a sudden isn't really going to have the best offer just because they're cash.
Yeah,
And
it's just gonna be that conversation with their buyer's realtor, and if they're, competitive situation, and the seller's offering 3% or 2.5%, and there's a shortfall, you either cover it, you negotiate it out, and you
yep,
move on, because you're never gonna get in the way of a closing for your client, ever.
right.
Not None of my portfolio brokers will.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
stand up for what we are owed, but we also understand that if it means that we have to negotiate and work for less, that's fine, because we build our careers on relationships, not on leads.
yes, yep, absolutely. And that's one thing. Hey, we're going to work with you on this, and what we ask for is two or three referrals. Like
Yeah,
how
exactly.
many of
Just
your
keep
friends,
it.
family, and coworkers need to have a conversation about buying, selling real estate, or getting into investing?
Yeah, and I think that comes naturally for the people who are really good at it and natural
Yeah,
at it, and then who are trained in understanding the expertise of it. But those kind of new laws and change, I think, have created a lot of opportunity for the realtors who want to make this a career and make this longevity. The full-time realtors who are experienced, this is what they do, this is all they do. They're not, sitting on the sidelines and typing, working at night because they have a day job and they have kids. Like, this is not
hmm
the career to do when you have lots of other jobs. I've done it and it's very difficult. It's a very singular focus, just like distracted attention, distracted focus, right? So
yep, yep,
find your person, and even if they're a little unexperienced, as long as they have a team leader or team mentor, which what we believe is the first 6 months, every single person that joins us has a mentor. So you will
yes,
always have an actual seasoned experience lead behind every new realtor. Though that's fine too, because you want to get multiple opinions.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, and yeah, I don't know 100%, but my theory is that the whole point of the lawsuit and the change was to do exactly what you're describing. Help
Mhm.
realtors, kind of force them to become more professional, to become more disciplined and more knowledgeable and
Mhm.
better able to serve the clients.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if that's, you know, because obviously social media is everybody screaming about, they're coming after our money. It's like, no, they're
No, they're
really just
not.
they're really just wanting you to be better.
Communication, just communication. It's just all
Yeah,
about, and we already were doing, my team 4 years ago, we're sitting down with buyers, showing them the screen, showing them the MLS, how it works, showing them what an appraisal looks like, showing them what an offer looks like,
yep,
explaining earnest money. We did the whole discovery as a buyer consult, and during COVID, we did it in Zoom like this. And
yep,
so people really liked that, because
yeah,
we had clients go, I've never understood. I would just meet the realtor at the house. Like,
right.
what? No, this is a process. I'm a former teacher, so I like the curriculum. I was like, let's do this, the pre-planning. This is the plan. This is all of it. Like, what are we wearing on the showings? People sometimes don't know. Dress comfortable, dress warm. If you're seeing
Yeah,
a lot of houses, drink your coffee in the morning, bring snacks. So like, we have fun with that. And we were doing that 4 years ago. So when the laws change, we're like, oh, awesome. We are already consulting our clients. Now we're just making it clear on how we all get paid. It's not an issue. And
yep,
it opens up the door for professional, high achieving realtors like our crew to actually take more buyers from the people who cannot communicate, who don't understand the changes, because they either don't know, they're not educating themselves, or their brokers aren't understanding or teaching them. We have a
yeah,
lot of small town mom and pop shops in Indiana all
yeah,
over. And that's okay, as long as you can teach yourself. If you're not getting it from the top down, you have to get online and teach yourself.
yeah. I love it. I love it. So what did you probably already touched a little bit on this, but
Yeah.
what advice would you give to someone who is, wanting to, maybe a new realtor, wanting to get into real estate or wanting to get into investing? What would be your advice?
Yeah,
First
and I think
steps.
that's a great question, because investing is such a wide world, and so you have to understand your goals. Like, how much do you have to consider to play with? Is it 5,000? Is it 25,000? And then also the next step would be, how do I educate myself? Do you have time to learn online? Then great. Bigger podcasts, bigger pockets podcast is what we always tell our clients to go to. And our beloved Peter Stewart is one of the elite professional brokers nationwide for them. And we love him. And he is truly amazing at just focusing on how to get the investor buyer into a home. So finding out, you can do calls with people like me or Peter. Like, I think if you can't just read a book or listen to a podcast, find someone that you can trust that
Yeah,
has done it before, or has a team member that has done it before. So as a new investor, starting in 2025, we're going to have a Zoom option for our company, which we have called is Empire. So
Hmm.
basically building generational wealth through, building your empire through real estate. It got to start
Mm.
with one.
Yep.
So how to buy that first one is really scary. So that's what our training is on, and it's the first Wednesday of the month. So you can reach out to me to tap into that. And that training, whether you're doing that in person or online, meet with someone who has done it in your city. Or if you want to invest in Indy, call me. We'll set up a Zoom. We have to handhold you. And if you're a new realtor and you are scared because this is so much to learn, there's residential buying, selling, new laws. You have to find a mentor. Find a
Yep.
mentor that and not just anybody will answer the phone. Call the person that you want to learn from. Call the
Yep.
person that is what you want your life to look like in 5 or 10 years. So those new people who are getting into real estate, it's very scary. Don't do it on your own. It is
Yeah.
definitely a team sport.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm sure that a lot of people would love to contact you about all
Yes.
of these subjects we've talked today. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Yeah, just would love an email, and it's meighanwise@gmail.com. And my name, thanks to my mother, is the original Irish spelling. I have an I and an H, so you can't forget it, but it always gets butchered. But it's Meighanwise, and it's simply at Gmail. And all my KW emails flow through to that Gmail as well. And so we monitor that, and we can set up calls. We can, if you're local, set up a coffee or set up a Zoom. We always have off-market properties available. Like I have a house for sale right now that's going up as a duplex in Indianapolis for $160,000. If it's rehabbed and done well, it's going to sell for $250. It rents $900 a side, so it's $1,800 a month income. And I'm listing it for 160. So that beats the 1% rule, which if
Yeah.
you're a savvy investor and old school investor, you hear about this 1% rule, you can Google it. It's really hard to find the 1% rule. Essentially, if you buy a house that's $200,000, it should cash flow rental income about $2,000.
Yep.
That's a simple 1% rule, right? So it's hard to find, but you can find it in certain markets like Indianapolis. So I'm listing a multifamily that needs work that beats the 1% rule. So I'm excited about listing that right before Christmas. That's what I
Love it.
do. I love it. So those kind of things we love to talk about. So tell your viewers or any of your clients as well, please reach out to us to talk about investing in real estate here. We do luxury flips as well. We do little fun class C flips, buy for 50, put 50 in, sell for 175. So if you want a small project, call us. We can do it all.
Love it. I love it. Well, very good.
Yeah.
Well, Meighan, thank you so much for joining us here today. I want to thank
Thank you.
everybody for listening. We are the Financial Advantage podcast powered
Yes.
by the Wells Funding Group. You can reach us at 219-230-8400 or wellsfundinggroup.com. We encourage you to like and subscribe to the podcast or whatever platform
Yes.
that you're on. And please share this with 4 or 5 or 10 other people that you know that
Yes, please.
need to.
I got to do a shout out, Dennis. I
Yeah.
also do a portfolio podcast. So
Oh, nice.
you can find us on YouTube called the Portfolio Podcast. So we talk all about things, building your portfolio, having a portfolio, even if it's just 2 houses, it's a portfolio. So you should be proud. So we talk all about investing. So you can follow us on that podcast as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, Meighan, thank you again, and have
Yeah,
a
thank
wonderful
you.
day. And let's definitely catch up again after the
Yeah, we'll
first of the
talk
year.
soon. Yes, that would be awesome. And have a happy holidays already. Santa's
Yes.
coming.
All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye, Dennis. Thanks.